Let's get it. Recently, there was an interesting report that came out from the Sun that I thought was noteworthy and worthy of talking about or discussing on the channel. Now, there has been a lot of questions as to why Robyn and why Kody had such a featured spot in episodes that had absolutely nothing to do with them, particularly talking about Christine and David Willie's wedding, the special. Why was Robyn and Kody there? I mean, hell, why was Mary there? None of them really have anything to contribute as far as what's going on and how things are happening or how things are developing during the course of this event or this very important milestone in Christine's life. If anything, all Kody can talk about is, well, I remember when we used to date. I remember when we were married. I remember when we first started going out, and I remember how I didn't like her and how when we broke up, I didn't like her even more. So that's all I have to offer. So really, what Kody had to say was essentially useless information. But yet and still, he had a prominent portion, or at least interviews, a confessional. He even had like a little time when he was sitting on the side of the mountain with Robyn, cutting down trees for no good reason, apparently, doing all these things. And a lot of the audience members and fan base had started asking the question as to why. The Sun produced an article which attempted to answer some of those questions. And to be honest with you, I thought some of those questions were noteworthy and worthy of us discussing. Let's take a listen to what I put together and 5 things that I pulled from this article, or at least 5 points that I think Kody made from a source, through a source that the Sun has, as to why he is such a critical member of this team. 1, Kody needed a paycheck. This is his life, and it's what is helping him pay the bills. 2, Sister Wives is Kody's show. He was the one who initiated the show. It will forever be his show. He's head of the family, and in the beginning, he was head of the family's contract. Number 3, there are TLC contracts in place to film another season. Together or not, Christine is part of the Sister Wives umbrella, and therefore, Kody has a say whether he lets her out of it or not. Number 4, he's being kind to allow Christine on the show at this point. But as far as the special goes, he had to be part of it because he knows it brings in money. Number 5, Kody doesn't want to lose his show. So he's going to find a way to keep filming with Christine despite living in separate states and still having anger built up. Now, to take this thing apart, part by part, piece by piece, first thing, Kody needs a paycheck. Of course he does. As far as we all know, this is what Kody does. Kody and Robyn are sister wife co-stars on the TLC polygamy propaganda program, Sister Wives. That's what they do. He does cameos on the side, and he has a few other side businesses, but the main source of his income is this business, which is basically shooting for TLC. This has been illustrated, for instance, by Christine, who is on a podcast, and when asked, what does Kody do? Like, what does he do for a living? How does he make money? And all Christine, his 30-year wife, could say is, well, Kody just kind of banters about, he diddles about, and he's into a whole lot of things, but I have no idea what he does. So as far as his ex-wife is concerned, she has no idea how this dude makes money other than being on the show, both him and Robyn. The second thing that Kody had said, or at least the second point that Kody made, was that Sister Wives was in fact his show. He was the patriarch when the show started. He was the head of the family. And by being head of the family, he signed them all to contracts under him, and he negotiated the contract. Now, whether we like it or not, whether we believe it or not, the truth of the matter is I can see a situation where Kody would negotiate for the family, on, or at least on behalf of the family, which would include the 4 other co-stars, these contracts and these agreements. And I can see them doing it all in the namesake of expedience. This is also part of the reason why, if you're going to get any type of business, especially business with friends or family, you always want to have contracts, and for the most part, you want to have separate lawyers. You want to have somebody who's looking out for your particular best interest, not the interest of the group or the collective or the family. You want somebody looking out for your best interest. Sarah actually had Sarah Howe from Reality Squad had a really interesting discussion about the contracts with regard to the kids. I'll probably do a follow-up on her video, but I think that a lot of that is in tandem and consistent with what I'm saying now. The kids want to have their own separate contract. They want to have their own separate representation to hammer out the details of that contract, as well as the wives, Christine, Mary, Janelle, and even Robyn, want to have separate attorneys to help nail out the best deal for them possible while they're negotiating with TLC. The next thing was being under a TLC contract. See, if Kody Brown, when he had the LLC, he said Kody Brown LLC, that particularly could have been a management arm, meaning that the ladies and everybody were signed to Kody Brown Entertainment LLC as talent. And he was essentially the managing partner or their manager. And by being their manager, he would have a cut of what they put out and what they say, as far as like when they went out and made money, he would get a portion of that money. So it's kind of interesting. It'd be kind of interesting to find out if they were still paying a portion of their paychecks to Kody because he has a contract with them as their manager. That would be interesting to find out. But as far as their contract under TLC, if they signed to do a contract under TLC, typically, if you work for even a union project, a SAG project, if you get signed onto a show and you have representation, whether it's a manager or agent, a manager typically could be getting anywhere from 10% to 20%, no more than that, under SAG contracts. An agent could be getting about 10%. So you could be paying about 30% of your money if you have a manager and an agent right off the rip. The thing is that if you sign an agreement, they introduce you or send you out for an audition and you get a show and you become a mainstay on that show. Even if you drop your management, they still represent you as far as that show is concerned. So there is a point where Kody could say, I'm their manager. I introduced them to Sister Wives as their manager. I got them into the deal as their manager. So anything that they make from this point forward from TLC in Sister Wives, the television program, I should get a piece of because I am their manager. And so there is a point where if they are under contract with TLC, they would have to fulfill that contract by shooting a next season. But if Kody had introduced them and he represented himself or purported himself to be their manager, their talent manager, or their talent agent, he would be entitled to a certain amount of money. Hi, this is Eddie James. As I was going through and I was listening to what I had said, I want to be very clear about one aspect of what I was talking about with regard to the management contract when it comes to the talent and specific projects. If you have a manager and that manager introduces you to an opportunity where you become a mainstay or you become a featured character or a guest spot or you have a recurring role on a particular project, that manager is entitled to money. But in order for them to get that, and here's the critical part, it's not enough for you just to be the manager that brought them into this TV show or this opportunity. You have to have a contract which explicitly says that you are entitled to that money. So it'll be interesting to find out if Kody actually has a contract through Kody Brown Entertainment LLC with these ladies, which explicitly says that from now and until eternity, he has rights over their images, names, likenesses, etc., under the force of this contract. The next point that Kody brought up, and I will give like an alter reality to this, or at least an answer, my perspective, an answer on how Christine, or maybe some strategy on how Christine, Mary, Janelle, or even Robyn could get out from underneath these contracts at the end. But number 4, the thing that they kind of pointed out was Kody was actually being kind by allowing Christine to be on the show. Let's stop right there. Even if Kody has a contract with Christine as her manager, he cannot control whether she is on the show or not. The only way he would have a say on who appears on the show is if he had controlling interest in the contract with TLC to determine the direction of the show. And I don't think that that's the case. Again, we'll talk about that at the end. So he's actually being very generous and benevolent by allowing Christine to appear on his show and realizing that by her being on the show, it only increases the value of the show. So he's been super nice to her by giving her the opportunity to keep coming back. Eddie James again. When I start talking about contracts, I want to be very clear. I'm talking about 3 distinct contracts that potentially could be available. The first contract would be the contract between the talent and the management company. So you're talking about Christine signing to Kody Brown Entertainment LLC. Then Kody Brown LLC would represent Christine and other wives in signing the contract that would be available to TLC. So TLC would have a separate contract with each individual person or talent from that show. And in that contract with Kody Brown LLC, that's where Christine would work her portion out with the management company, but she would have an independent contract with TLC by itself. Now, potentially as a partner in the Kody Brown Entertainment LLC, there would be an additional contract which would negotiate or talk about what the powers and responsibilities of each one of those people would be. So that contract may or may not exist, but there would be a contract most certainly between TLC and the talent, which would be Christine, and there very well may be a contract between Kody Brown Entertainment LLC and Christine in order to give power to Kody Brown Entertainment to negotiate for the talent, which would be Christine. Hopefully that's not too fuzzy. Thanks. And number 5, he wants to keep his show. So regardless of the fact that Christine and he are no longer together, he's no longer together with Mary or Janelle, and in some cases, Mary lives in Utah, Parowan, Utah. Christine, she lives in Utah. Janelle, even though she lives in the same state of Arizona, she has no interest in really seeing Kody and Robyn, and for the most part, they really don't have any real reason as to why they would even be in the same room together other than for the kids or events that happen with the kids. I don't know how you would film with them. So there's always that question. Now, with regard to the first thing, do I think Kody needs a paycheck? Absolutely. Like I said, if this is his only source of income, and more to the point, this is such a big opportunity as a source of income. If he left TLC tomorrow, would he be able to replace that level of income with his skills or what he has going on? Would he be able to demand $200,000, $300,000 a year from another employer or some other business venture? That there's a big question mark there, and the answer probably is no. Or he would have already left. I think that he would have already left. Number 2, with regard to this being Kody's show, whether he presented this show to TLC or not, TLC is funding this show. And it would be very hard for me to believe that TLC would throw money, advertisement dollars, slots on their network and take all the fiduciary risks of putting out a TV show plus the expenses of putting out a TV show and not maintain and retain ownership of the said show. I refuse to believe that. In addition to that, when it comes to the contracts, TLC very well may have them under contract and force them all to kind of film and work together because they agreed to do like the season 19 and maybe round it out to a season 20, stretch it out to a season 20. But there's no reason in the world why TLC would not renegotiate those contracts or reformulate those shows. If this is TLC's show, this is TLC's show. Now, some may argue, well, if it's Kody's show and he actually has contracts on them as representation, what could they do? Here's what I would do. Even under Kody Brown LLC, each one of the sister wives were were members of that LLC. So they were a part of the LLC. So in essence, if Kody Brown Entertainment LLC, even if he was a CEO or the managing partner or whatever the case may be, as he would call it, these ladies also had interest in the talent. So they all had interest in each other because they were a part of the management company. In addition to being part of the management company, there's always the threat of, okay, well, if you want to drag this out and we're going to go to court, then we need to get those books in. So in order for Kody to enforce that contract, it's not just, hey, I have a contract, haha, and everybody bows down. You actually have to go to court. And if you go to court, then that opens up the possibility that these wives could say, okay, well, fine, let's go to court and make sure you bring the books with you. And we're going to crack those books open to make sure every dollar and every nickel that you spent from this account has been spent appropriately. And if it hasn't been spent appropriately, that could cause more problems for Kody than even these contracts are worth. So there's kind of that question. And I think that Kody is in that position where he's kind of bomb throwing. So he very well may destroy himself by trying to press this issue, and it could be very problematic. But trust me when I say this, if that is what he is planning on doing, it is not worth it. Because if they crack them books open, I suspect that a lot of that money hasn't been spent appropriately. A lot of those taxes haven't been allotted. Income that you've been receiving and money that you've been putting out and how you've received it and how you put it out hasn't been accounted for properly. And if that's the case, then you could find yourself in a lot more trouble than just being in violation of a contract with TLC. You could find yourself in trouble with the government, namely the IRS. So with that being said, there are a few ways, a few exit ramps that these ladies could take in order for them to be able to get out from underneath the contract. As far as him being kind because it's his show and he's deciding what's going on the show, I firmly don't believe that, because if Kody actually had a say in what happened on the show, then he would actually be in a better position, both he and Robyn. There have been too many times, especially over the course of the last 2 or 3 seasons, where Kody and Robyn will come out and say one thing, and TLC would use either historical reels or film to go contradict exactly what Kody had to say, or they would use like the present reel, so they would show the scene that Kody was involved with. A perfect example of that is the scene where Kody was arguing with Janelle, and the one that he didn't want to talk about, he was tired of discussing, and to my estimation, he tried to scrap by pointing at the camera and saying, tell the world, and breaking that fourth wall. Usually if you break a fourth wall in a reality show, that's film or footage that they can't use. Kody, knowing that, because he's been on the show for 18 seasons at that point, he understood that if you point at the camera or you say something to the camera or to the producers, that might be footage that they can no longer use. So they use that footage anyway. And not only did they use that footage, they kept bringing it out. So every time Kody said something, they would run that footage out, which would show the contradiction between what he said and make him and Robyn look bad. And they've been trying to rehabilitate their images for the last about 13 seasons. They've been trying to rehabilitate their image so that they can appeal more to the fan base. Now, when it comes to this show, I've always taken a position that Kody, in his mind, thought that this show was his show. He always thought that this show was about him and his new love affair with his new wife, Robyn, and how the two of them navigate their family as they deal with the OG3 or these older wives and the issue of polygamy. I think that was always his point. Now, many people are going to disagree with me. No, James, the show is about... I understand what you're saying, but I think that from his perspective, in his mind, that's what he thought this show was about. He thinks it's his show. So I kind of believe this Sun report to some degree. I think that he thinks it's his show and he has far more power and control over this show and the goings on this show than he actually does. Let me know what you guys think. This is My Take. I'm James. This has been My Take on Reality, and I'm out.
peace, yeah.